Hello, this is video number 14. That's a terrible hashtag. Video number 14, and this is chapter 3, section 8. And the main topic or the point that we're trying to get across here is for you to understand standard form of a line. And to be able to go back and forth between standard form of a line, point slope, slope intercept, all different types of forms, right? We've talked about those in the past. So let me just show you how you've actually seen these before. I touched base on it a little bit. Standard form of a line is where you have ax plus by equals c, where a and b are both not equal to 0. So one can be, or the other can be, but they both can't be. So this has to be true. Also, A, B, and C are not fractions. So if you have them, you need to get rid of them. So just kind of a side note, let me just say this. If you have 2/3 x plus 1/2 y equals 4, if you take something like this and multiply by the common denominator, you can get rid of the fractions. So let me show you how to do that. The common denominator in this equation, you have a denominator of 3, a denominator of 2, and a denominator of 1. Common denominator is going to be 6. Often the denominators multiplied together will give you a common denominator, right? So then you can do these in your calculator. You're just going to distribute the 6 to all these different terms. And so 6 times 2/3, if I were to do this longhand, this would be 12/3, which is 4. So I have 12/3 x, which is 4x, plus 6/2 y, which is 3y, equals 6 times 4 is 24. So this and this are exactly the same. You just got rid of the fractions. So that's something you're going to have to do if we end up with fractions in our standard form. So that's just a side note there. And then let me show you how you've seen these before. So you have seen maybe 2x minus 6y equals 8, and you've been told to graph this, right? Well, the best thing to do for you to graph that is to put it in slope-intercept form. Which is y equals mx plus b, which means you have to get the y all by itself. So that means we want to anchor this y and move everything away from it, right? And you've done this before. So we're going to subtract off 2x, subtract off 2x. That's going to leave me with a negative 6y. These are going to cancel, right? These are not like terms, and I'll put it in mx plus b form. So the negative 2x first, plus 8. And now I want to get rid of the negative 6 on this y, so I'm going to divide everything by negative 6 and make sure that you reduce. So negative 6 over negative 6 is 1, so that's y. Negative 2 over negative 6 is a positive 1/3, and 8 over negative 6 is a negative 4/3. And so this would be the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. And the reason you do that generally, if you had the original question up here and they said, what's the slope and what's the y-intercept, you'd never know, right? You have to do this. Or if you want to graph it. So that's the best way to graph it. It's the best way to tell you what your slope and your y-intercept are. Now we're going to go backwards, though. We're going to start with this form right here, and we're going to go to this form. But I want to show you first a little different question in varsity. So here is a varsity question that I've already saved over here. And it looks like this. Use 2 points on the line to find the equation of the line. Well, there's a couple of things I very much dislike about this. First, I dislike that lines in varsity don't have arrows on them because they should always have arrows on them. Secondly, it's up to you to pick some points on this line. And there's a few. There's a point right here, a point right here. And I'm going through coordinate points, right? And by that, I mean where those things intersect each other. So I'm not going through where they're like fractional parts of points. There's another one here, and there's another one here. So you can ultimately pick any two of them. Find the slope, right? So first you have to identify points on the line. Then you have to pick two of them. Determine your slope. And we can do that by counting, right? In this case, I'm going to go up 1 and over 3. So my slope is 1/3. You could also, if you really wanted to, use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Why? When you can count, make things simpler. And then you need your y-intercept, the b. And that's where the graph crosses the y-axis, which happens right here. So the y-intercept is -1. So if you were to fill in this equation, we know we have y equals 1/3 x minus 1. Now, what you're supposed to do here is write the equation of the line in standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. The c is actually your constant, your y-intercept. And so we're going to leave this on this side of the equation, move this guy over here. We're going to move it by doing the opposite sign. So we're going to subtract it. So we're going to subtract a 1/3 x. The y has no sign, so it's a plus a y equals -1. And now you need to eliminate fractions. This one only has one fraction in it, so the common denominator is going to be 3. Okay, so if I multiply 3 by -1/3, I get -1x. And then 3 times y. And then 3 times -1. Okay, now when you put this into varsity, you're not going to put this 1 on here, right? So this is going to look like -x plus 3y equals -3. Okay, so this is the standard form of this line up here that's graphed. That is also the same as y equals 1/3 x minus 1, right? These are exactly the same. These equal each other, just two different forms of that equation. All right. Excuse me. Next, let's see another way that they put this question into varsity, and this is just testing your ability to manipulate information. It says, given the points -1, 5, and -4, -1, find the equation of the line in standard form. So there's a couple things that you need to do here. You need to recognize that when it says standard form, you're aware that that means ax plus by equals c. Well, I guess first you have to actually read the question. That's an important statement. If you just see the question and you don't see those last two words, you might put it in slope-intercept form, and you're going to get this wrong. So make sure you read every single word in the directions. All right, then you have to decide what to do. Well, the best thing for you to do is to first get this thing into slope-intercept form. And so there's some information you need to do that. That means you need the slope. Do you have enough information to find the slope in this question? Yes, you do, because you have the two ordered pairs. So you're going to use your slope formula. In order to do that. And then once you have your slope, I would use point slope form of a line. Which is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And you just pick one of those 2 points up above, okay? So if we were to do that, and then eventually we need to manipulate that, right? So then I guess that would be step 3. Then we need to manipulate this answer into standard form. Okay, so let's do this. If we want to find our slope first, we're going to go m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Come on back up here. And you guys have had so much practice with this now. This would be x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So we're going to have -1 minus 5 over -4 plus 1. That's going to give us -6 over -3, which is a +2. And that's our slope, right? So that's m. All right, once you know your slope, we can plug that into your slope-intercept form. I'm sorry, point-slope form. And then when you have 2 points, just pick one. So we'll use the point, I'm going to use, I don't know, this guy, I guess. -4, -1. Okay, so we're going to point slope form. Let's go to a different color. So point slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Plug in for x1, y1, and slope. And so that's going to look like y minus, here's my x1, y1 in this case. Unless you wanted to be totally literal and use this guy because that's what you labeled x1 and y1. I mean, you could totally do that. You can pick any point. They're both on the line, so it doesn't matter. So y minus y1 is y minus a -1, so that's y plus 1 equals, my slope is 2, and then x minus x1 is going to be x minus a -4, so that's x plus 4. I'm going to distribute. So that gives me y plus 1 equals 2x plus 8. And then I don't actually have to go all the way. Well, I kind of do. I need this guy. Let's go highlighter. I need this guy and this guy to be combined as like terms, right? Before I can go any further. So let's subtract a 1 from there, subtract a 1 from there. And then to put it in standard form, because that's our goal, don't forget what your goal is here. We need ax plus by equals c. So this guy's going to stay here. This guy's going to go to the other side by subtraction. So we're going to have -2x plus y equals 7. And that would be the standard form of that line. All righty. Let's see. The next thing I want to do, that's it for here. I want to just take you over to Varsity and work through one problem so you don't get there and get surprised. And so this is for question 8, 9, and 10 in this section. They're giving you 3 separate lines here, and your job is to graph all of them. So y equals 1/2 x. That's mx plus b, right? Which means your b over here is 0. So I'm going to graph that line first. And if my b is 0, then I'm going to go up 1 and over 2. And that's line A. That takes care of it. It's done. If I have x equals -4, that means it is x equals is a vertical line, right? Through this value, -4. So I'm going to go, don't click on the line that you already created. So just click 2 separate points when you do a vertical line. And then this guy, y equals 4, that's going to be a horizontal line at y, goes through the y-axis at 4. Now you've got them all graphed. This is a multi-part question. You want to make sure that you're answering all of these questions down here. So for this guy, the slope of line A. You might want to actually just graph that one and then answer these questions. So the slope for this one would be a half. The x-intercept is 0. So is the y-intercept. So these would be 0, 0, and 0, 0, right? Then line B is our vertical line. The slope, well, the slope of a vertical line is undefined, so you'd put D and E in here. The x-intercept is 4, but the y-intercept, it's, oops, what is happening? That vertical line is never going to hit the y-axis, so you can also put a D and E in here for your y-intercept, okay? And I think it tells you that in the directions. Let's go up here. Type D and E if the answer does not exist. So that's for an intercept as well. Then line C is the horizontal line. That one will have a y-intercept because it crosses the y-axis, but it will never hit the x-axis. So that would be a D and E. Okay, so don't be afraid to put those in there when you answer those questions. Okay, so I think that takes care of everything that you need for 3.8. So toodaloo for now.